Yo guys, Coach Theo here on Common Sense. Today we'll be talking about whether men should cry or not. And before I give my take on the topic, I want you to answer that question. What do you think? Just bro, what do you think? Should a man cry? Is crying something a man does? Can you really be manly and cry at the same time? Or is that something reserved for women and children? Your answer to this will reveal to you a lot about your beliefs about, well, the world as a whole, but mainly about yourself and the way you think you need to be in this world. And I think it's important to talk about because in 2024, and since long before then, masculinity is in a crisis. It's like no one really knows what it is anymore, have forgotten. And many of us, on the one hand, we were brought up getting all these kinds of messages thrown at us that imply that really anything traditionally associated with men and masculinity is just toxic, bad. And we should strive to be less masculine, softer. And this sort of ideology would probably say that, yes, of course men should cry. Just get in touch with your emotions there, big guy. And then on the other hand, you have this counter reaction to it, this that I on one hand want to call hyper masculinity, but it's really not masculine at all, and we'll get into that in a minute. But this sort of Andrew Tate masculinity, the angry, loud, and super hard message. No, men just are disciplined and hardworking, and he doesn't feel his emotions, or if he does, he can't care about them because he has all this important work to do in the world. You gotta acquire all this stuff and get influence, get nice cars, and the women and fame, blah blah. And this sort of ideology would probably say that men, no, you should not cry. That's girly or childish. And I'm here to tell you that neither of these are getting it right. You see, this universe is a universe of polarity and duality. And the yin-yang symbol really symbolizes the nature of the universe in its entirety very well, but it's very applicable when we talk about men and women and masculinity and femininity, because if you look at that symbol, there are two poles, but it isn't black and white. There exists a dot of each within the other. And that's why I say, if something is hyper masculine, it can't possibly be masculine, because part of masculinity is integrating your inner femininity too. You see, masculinity and femininity, it's not just about men and women. They are really energies that exist within all of us, both men and women. And it's not something that can be answered with numbers, but I would say that in order to be a 100% masculine man, you need to be 60% masculine and 40% feminine. And it sounds contradictory, but it's because part of masculinity is femininity and part of femininity is masculinity. It's just a little bit about the ratios, right? Again, it can't be perfectly mathematical, but okay, I'm talking off the top of my head. I'm going to talk more about it in general. I'm going to share some of my experiences with crying, okay? So let's first just say, what is crying? Like, what even is it? Like, more than literally just tears coming out of your eyes. It is a way to process emotions. Usually, when we're talking about crying, it's very tough, negative emotions, if you will. There aren't really positive and negative emotions, and we just have a preference for which ones we like to feel, but they all serve a purpose. And so when you're experiencing immense loss, sadness, grief, sorrow, and pain, and you really have nothing to do about it, that's when crying comes in. It's just a way of processing what you're feeling so that you can release it, okay? And a lot of men that I talk to think they are stoic when they don't really feel anything. And this is getting it completely wrong, because stoicism is in fact the opposite. It's leaning into and feeling whatever you feel fully and allowing whatever process that needs to take place so that you can release the emotion without it overtaking you. Feeling your emotions fully is not being overtaken by them, but there is some nuance to that. We're going to come to that too. But it is, in fact, when you don't allow yourself to do that, well, first of all, ask yourself, is it really manly? A man is supposed to be authentic, unapologetically himself in the world. And if he denies himself what he feels and tries to hide it, is that really manly? No, that's an insecure behavior. But also, if we're talking about being controlled by your emotions, if you're if you're right now sad and cry, and then you feel better afterwards and you can move on and do what you need to do, where you're really controlled by your emotion, while if you couldn't stand, you were too scared to face your pain, so you ended up shutting it down instead, well, now you'll go around like a zombie. You won't have access to many other emotions now, not the nice ones either, you know. And an emotion that is denied does never go away. It transforms to something else. Now you're going to find yourself being angry or irritable or something like that, you see? So it's not stoic or manly to deny yourself what you feel, okay? So I'm going to tell you some stories about how look, when we're working on ourselves, in the way we do here, like philosophers basically, Uncommon Sense, it's a philosophical way of life. And you keep having to learn these lessons over and over and over. Because even before starting Uncommon Sense, I had kind of concluded for myself that no, crying serves a purpose, and it's something you have to do at times. At the same time, there's been times when I've been unable to do it when I needed to. And like, let's talk about that first. Like, why would we even think that crying is something we shouldn't do? Because we have some kind of deep belief that, you know, it is sort of admitting some kind of helplessness. You have nothing. It feels like you're just a helpless little moron. If all you can do is sit and like, and you feel like there's something dirty about that. And maybe you've gotten messages thrown at you that no, this is not how men are. Crying is for kids and women, and you think it's weak to do this. Like, there are many different reasons as to why. What I'm saying is I had kind of realized some things about this, but still, when we work on ourselves, we peel layers over and over and over. And so last year, I had a miserable year, and now from what I've learned from it, I can see how it could have been less miserable, especially it could have been miserable for a way shorter time if I just had embraced and felt what I needed to feel. So I won't go into all of it, or any of it in detail really, but I felt immense loss over many different things, including myself. I had been feeling so great, and sort of everything I was happy and excited about, and the way I was feeling about myself, it was just all taken away. And I can remember a key moment when I was living in Greece, when the grief came knocking on the door. I really could feel that if I open the door now, I will just cry, 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 and cry. But I was too scared to do it. And what instead happened was I completely shut down in the way I said. And it's a dreadful experience. You feel almost nothing. You're not excited about anything. Everything just feels heavy. And now this was something that continued to go on for a really long time, you know. While I know now that if I had opened the door and let the grief in instead of closing it and barricading the door, yes, I would have had a day when I'm suffering a lot, feeling a lot of pain, maybe even 2 days, but then I would have let go of a whole lot of that, and I would be more ready to turn a new leaf, okay? So I was in a similar sort of thing through the entire... First of all, that's the kind of thing too, with feeling grief and sorrow, sometimes you kind of have to take the train when it's there or else it leaves. And then you're stuck in this shutdown state, which kind of happened to me. Long story short, as the year goes on, I started to embrace and lean into the fact that, things sucked. And I allowed myself to be... I didn't really cry at this point then, but I allowed myself to feel the loss and feel just little and helpless. And look, that helps so much, because really, what is it we want to do when we cry? Because it is a childish behavior, you could say. And what does a child that cries, what do they want? Well, they just want to be held and comforted, right? But the difference, when you're an adult, when you're a man and not a boy, you have to be the one that needs to be comforted and the one that does the comforting yourself. You need to be able to hold yourself through this, okay? So this year, I've been doing quite well overall, but there's been some difficult things happening. Again, I can't be too detailed, but with the girl I love, there's been many challenges. And so, how do I put it without being like, while leaving the details out of it, basically, she has been going through a tough time, which, of course, when you love someone, that means it's a tough time too. But maybe there are some things that I'm not too happy with. And there was a point not too long ago when I'm just like, I have to understand how difficult of a time she's having, and it feels so unfair in many ways, because of course I feel for her, but it's like, but how about me, and my little feelings here, and that's that inner battle of feeling selfish when someone else that you love is suffering, to be like, oh, what about me and my feelings? And I think the other thing that I think we men, we can feel, an idea we can get into our head is that, crying, being sad over a girl, oh, that's weak, I can't be that. But this time I knew too well the mistakes I've done with, not just with girls I love or something, just in general, treating a feeling like this. So what I did was allowing myself to let both things be true at once. Like, yes, she is hurting, she's having a difficult time, but it is very, very difficult for me too, and that's okay. And I just cried a lot for myself here. And I've never felt so comforted by myself that I actually, instead of feeling like there's something wrong with what I'm feeling, it's like, yeah, it's intense, but it's okay. You need to do this. I am here for me. And I'm still in quite a tricky spot with that. But because I allow myself to feel everything fully, and even cry at the times when I've needed to do so, I'm processing it all. I'm not holding on to all these things and going and overthinking or just looping and being in and out of anger and irritability and that. Like, I can feel a little sadness or like, oh, there are some challenges, but as a whole, I'm processing it and letting it go. I'm accepting the situation. Do you see? Oh yeah, this is the point that needs to be made too, because it's about balance again, guys. The answer to whether men should cry or not isn't really yes or no. If we have to say yes, we say yes, because men are human beings. Human beings have emotions. Emotions are meant to be felt, and that's the right thing to do. And doing what's right to do is what a man does. However, it's about picking your moments, though. If you just always just let out everything you're feeling at any moment, you'll be more like a woman. You'll be emotional. And a man needs to, while he has to allow himself to feel too, it is a masculine virtue to be able to put it, not permanently suppress it, shut it down, like I talked about these stoic guys doing, but when it's the time and when it's not the time. Okay, so a man definitely, if you're sad and you're grieving and stuff, well, you have to be feeling that on your own or among close ones, friends, and letting it out there, because you have to be able to also, if you have important work that just needs to be done, no matter how you feel, you need to now be able to set it aside temporarily. Do you see what I mean? It's a balance. It's not about, cry as soon as you feel the smallest hint of sadness or whatever. It's something you should do, but pick your moments. And it is actually this: if you have been going through a lot of pain and you're trying to suppress it, probably notice that everything you need to do, it feels heavy and difficult to do, is actually when you take the moments in between. Do this to grieve, which is mainly what we do when we cry, right? That's actually, it helps you process, so you're more able, because you're not always going and shutting all of this down. You let it out when it's the time, so that you can put it away when it's not the time, you see. Yes, I guess I'm thinking, I don't know, I think I'm done with the video. It's always difficult. I could go on so long with these kinds of topics, but guys, we're one mission on this channel is to find our way back to actual masculinity and femininity, and it isn't so black and white as the world presents. The funny thing is that the more you embrace that there is a masculine and a feminine, there is a difference between men and women, the more you embrace it, the more you'll see also the ways we're all alike. And this that I said, that femininity exists within men too, and masculinity exists within women too. And I'll end on that note. The most masculine men are always the one that to also embody their best feminine qualities. And the best feminine, most feminine women, they are also the ones to embody their good masculine qualities. It's quite amazing how this works, guys. But it's already quite long, 50 minutes, so I'll end it here. Please like and comment. Tell me your take. Share with us your pain and when you cried. Guys, we're here for each other here. And women too, of course, but we are mainly guys here. It's just a fact. Yeah, I do holistic bodybuilding coaching. As you can see, we get jacked and stacked mentally, physically, spiritually. The body, guys, it's great. It's a useful tool, but you see, the work we do in Uncommon Sense, it's holistic. It's on every level we work on ourselves. So you can send me a DM on Instagram or email me if you want to know about my different programs. It's in the description below. And I can really use your support either way, guys. If you like my content, you can become a Patreon, you can become a member of the channel, you can send a super thanks comment or super chat on the live streams, and you can even send a contribution on PayPal if you like. Everything is very much appreciated. And please subscribe for more content about fitness, fasting, losing weight, building muscle, self-improvement, stoicism, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It is a mindset, guys. Men should cry when it's time to do so. Okay, peace.